Hello and welcome to Business on the Wire. I'm Mitali Mukherjee. In a morning broadcast today, Prime Minister Modi announced that he was repealing the three contentious farm laws. This brings to a close a months and months long farmers' protest where they have been fighting back against these three laws. They're going to wait at this point for a formal repealment that will probably happen only in the winter session of Parliament, and also some kind of communication on what happens with the MSP. The decision also stands very, very close to upcoming elections in Uttar Pradesh and in Punjab. Remember, in Western UP, the Jat farmer community has been quite vocal in their anger against the laws, as of course have the farmers from Punjab against these three farm laws. Joining me to talk about the legal consequences of this and the legislative prudence really attached to these kind of decisions and their repealment is Mr. Abhishek Manu Singhvi, eminent jurist, third term sitting MP, former chairman of the Parliamentary Standing Committee, and national spokesperson, Congress. Thank you, Mr. Singhvi, for joining in and speaking with me. Your first reactions to the announcement made earlier today by the Prime Minister on repealing the three farm laws.
Well, I think it's the old familiar Hindi saying, "देर आए दुरुस्त आए," लेकिन देर बहुत कर दी और दुरुस्ता भी खत्म हो गई. Better late than never is a saying, but not so late that it is close to never. So the first point I wish to make is, imagine the suffering, the trauma, the jaddo-jihad, the dialectics, the antagonism, the bitterness, the nastiness, which could have been avoided. We are now close to a second anniversary. Point two, ultimately, why could this not have been done earlier? That will remain the eternal mystery. Neither you nor I can answer it. Only one or at the most 1.5 persons can answer it. There is, whether it is ego, whether it is political zid, whether it is the fact that even if what Mitali is saying is all right because Mitali is endorsed by people who are my political opponents, therefore Mitali is wrong. Are you following what I'm saying?
I am.
So that's the second point. The third point is, I unequivocally support the action taken. Don't think that I'm being negative about it. I'm just saying that a lot of problems could have been minimized, if not altogether avoided. Fourthly, and many people have not emphasized this for a long while, because what happens is, institutionally in this country, Mitali, as you know, ennui sets in. People are just, used to something.
Yeah.
But people forget that a very similar move was proposed by the Vajpayee government. But because of the maturity and the sagacity of Mr. Vajpayee, he clearly said two things which were forgotten this time around, which is why all this trauma and suffering has happened. He said, A, these are model laws which I am proposing, namely central government.
Yeah.
B, you as the state have the option. State Mitali may adopt it, state Singhvi may not adopt it, state third may adopt a modification.
Yeah.
C, not once was an attempt made, not only then, but right up to, when this started in the late 2019 and 2020s. No attempt was made to ram it down the throat of any segment, any stakeholder. I'm talking of a very, very identical situation with the BJP government.
Yeah.
So this is what I want to emphasize as political maturity. And last point in the opening, which is again being forgotten now because time has lapsed. Why Vajpayee ji did it? Why other governments did not do it like the way it has been done this time? Because everybody who knows a modicum of law knows that all the entries to agriculture are in the state list. As you know, state list means exclusive competence in the state, not competence in the state, exclusive in the state. Now, what has happened is, so therefore, it has to be left to the state. What happened is that there is one entry which has to be there, that for interstate agricultural produce movement, obviously the center will have competence. Yeah. Misusing that entry, these farm laws have been passed. So had the Supreme Court been more active with greater alacrity and dealt with it in the last 1.5 years, I am confident it would have otherwise, other than politics, other than society, other than common sense, would have struck it down on law also on lack of confidence.
Yeah, there's two important things you've said there, and I want to take one first, and perhaps the observation about the Honorable Court later. This is something you have been saying in the past as well. The fact that APMC reform was taking place at a state level, they were trying to put in some market model reforms. What happens now, sir? Now that these three laws stand repealed, does it go back into the state's ambit? How do you think it's going to progress over the next few months?
So two things here. One is, of course, once they are repealed, you are back to the laws which were already there in the state. Number one answer, because obviously, as a matter of fact, those laws were not repealed as such. Many states registered, many states passed further laws which overrode these three offending laws. But let's not get into that debate. We are back to largely this law which existed or the law which some few states have passed subsequently. For example, some states have passed a law which say that we are accepting some elements, the innocuous, beneficial elements of this current withdrawn legislation. But we are totally giving up the idea that we will not have MSP, we will not have a market committee area, etc., etc. So those laws which the states passed after these laws will continue. But the second point is very important, that these things should be born out of the ground experience. You ask something, Vitali, about what will states do, what will happen. People forget that a state like Bihar, which has for long periods been part of the NDA, occasionally not part of the NDA, as you know well, has had this law for a while. A fairly close clone of this law, which Mr. Modi has withdrawn today, was pre-existing in Bihar. The actual studies on the ground, the statistical empirical studies suggest that the gain in the objects which Mr. Modi has been propounding was very limited in Bihar. Now, you know, this might not be true. I'm giving an example only. I'm not talking of fact. In Kerala or in Nagaland or in Jammu and Kashmir. But it has to be born out of experience of state to state.
Mm. There are clear demands that the farmers have made post the announcement of this repeal, Mr. Singhvi. They want to know what happens with MSP. They want to know why this is not coming through an ordinance and we are waiting till winter session. They also want to know what is happening with regards to the electricity bill, what is happening with that promise of doubling of farmer income. What what can you say with confidence might take place
First point.
given how the farm laws were passed in the first place?
First point. You have answered your own question without realizing. What does it reflect what you have just illustrated very graphically in 5 examples in your question? You've taken 5 different examples. What does it illustrate, Vitali? It illustrates a huge, humongous trust deficit. The farmers are asking these questions. Sometimes they would not ask it, but look at the trust deficit, the chasm which this government has created. Secondly, they are right absolutely in asking, even a non-lawyer and a child knows, that a statement is only a declaration of intent from the Prime Minister. Howsoever high the Prime Minister or the President of India, he doesn't repeal the law by a declaration on NDTV or on your channel. He has to pass the laws in Parliament and therefore an ordinance, considering that you are having ordinance right, left and center, contrary to Supreme Court judgments to protect tenures of individuals. I don't see why this ordinance should not have been first bought and then the statement made. But anyway, we are obviously waiting for the ordinance. If not the ordinance, then an act. It is, of course, ironical that you will wait for an act for 10 days more, whereas you are passing ordinances as just was passed 3 days ago. Thirdly, the other questions you've raised on the larger issue of farm welfare. This issue has got embroiled and escalated, Vitali, into very unsavory and unwarranted contexts, which is why these are legitimate questions of deficit of trust being asked. Electricity, etc. apart, the kind of human rights violations of farmers, and I'm not talking only of the Kheri incident, which was brutal and barbaric, but across the country, especially in the north, has given rise to a lot of angst. So I would add the third dimension, that a healing touch, it is not merely a negative withdrawal, but a positive healing touch is required. And for that, going away from pure electoral issues, I regret to say that a lot of this is actuated not by those noble sentiments which somebody might be looking for. Going away from electoral motives, you should do some trust building, whether it is by giving genuine loans, genuine waivers, genuine benefits, and make promises cautiously which you will actually implement. Don't make them in the air to just get rid of the moment.
It's actually ironic that you use the term healing touch, Mr. Singhvi, because it was odd the phraseology of the statement this morning, where the Prime Minister said, "I apologize to the citizens. I haven't been able to explain this to the farmers." So it wasn't an apology; it was an "I'm sorry if you haven't understood my good intention."
I have no problem. I have no problem with the Prime Minister's statement today. We are not talking of today. Today, you are absolutely right. It was a soft, inclusive, and a very kind of reconciliatory statement. And quite frankly, uncharacteristic of the person about whom you are speaking. But the point is, healing touch means it has to be a consistency and a continuity going beyond the next few weeks. It's not a one-off.
Sure. Let me talk about the other sort of obvious conclusion one draws from the timeline of events. As you said, it was closing in on its second anniversary, but it is also closing in on elections in some key states. It seems, or there seems to be a clear connection between the announcement today and an impact on the Jat farmers in western Uttar Pradesh, equally across the Sikh farmers in Punjab. What do you think might change in the political dynamics because of this decision or announcement?
No, I think you are being very moderate in your words, usage of words. It is clearly political. Let me be blunt. Anyway, even if you achieve the right result through wrong reasoning, doesn't matter. At least the result is right. The point is that that's where the trust deficit and your question intersect. It is not that you press a button, withdraw it, and politically everything is hunky-dory. Everybody starts clapping, and your political event is now again snowballing in support system. No, the trust deficit ensures that people don't trust you of this segment on these issues. So therefore, I think everything will be taken with a bunch or a bucket full of salt with a caveat. And let us see, ultimately deeds will prove, not words. An ordinance, a clear, unequivocal maintenance of the mandi and the market, a clear, unequivocal maintenance of the MSP, etc., etc., a clear rollback of some of the pernicious features of this law by ordinance, and then further subsidiary measures of farm support systems. And what is required for Haryana may not be for a Punjab, what is required for a Punjab may be different from Bihar. A lot of things are required which have to be factored in. And money and COVID should not become an excuse for not being generous on that score.
Sure. I want to look at two key verticals as well, Mr. Singhvi. You've been, chair of the Parliamentary Standing Committee. Why is legislative agenda so poorly managed? Even as we speak, CA is still being notified from what we understand. Same with labor laws, on again, off again. With the way the farm laws were pushed through and now are being repealed. Why is the legislative?
Two answers. One is factual and contextual. Let's be blunt again. Legislative agendas are overcome because politics overcomes them. Politicization of when, how, if means that what would otherwise be a legislative agenda doesn't get done or gets done in an over hurried manner. Both are wrong. Second is a more jurisprudential principled reason. In India, MPs have no right to initiate law. Only the government of the day can initiate law. So a lot of the priority legislation gets left behind because unlike a senator in the US who can initiate a law, as you know, it becomes a CV Mitali law in that country because the name of the two senators who initiated. In India, an MP has no such power. So therefore, the government controls the timing, the if, the what, the how much, the when. And that is sometimes, not sometimes, I would say frequently overtaken by political reasons, which are not reasonable, not logical, not merit-based, and have no relation to a normal legislative agenda.
My second question is with regards to the judiciary and its perception of events, Mr. Singhvi. I mean, both in the Shaheen Bagh case and in the farmer protests, the word from the judiciary was that grievances should either be raised in court or legislature. Public protest should be avoided. I think, what this entire process has shown is how disconnected the judiciary is from what is the reality on the ground.
See, the judiciary was involved in this issue on two fronts. The main front was when they repeatedly said for almost 6 months, we are not concerned with the merits of the dispute, we are only concerned with stoppage of ingress and egress and blockage of roads. Now, that part you forgot to mention, that may be a not invalid sentiment of the judiciary. I don't support it, but I don't oppose it either. Because they took care to say it is not on the merits. We don't support or oppose. We don't condemn or stop. We just say that you do your protest, but do it in a way that you don't block roads permanently. That's a possible and reasonable point of view. But let me tell you, apropos the question you asked, which is the second part. I have this happened more than many months ago, as you remember, this statement which you are saying.
Yeah.
I opposed it then, publicly on television. I'm opposing it now in front of you. No court in the country can inhibit my right of protest. My constitutional fundamental right, be it under 19(1)(a), free speech and expression, or other parts of Part 3 of the Constitution. No court, not the Supreme Court, not the High Court, not a trial court. Yes, if I exceed the reasonable restrictions, if I start swinging my arm to the degree and the width where your nose begins, then yes, you can stop me. But otherwise, even if crazily I swing my arms in the air and affect nobody, well, then you cannot. You may not like it, you may not agree with it. In fact, I disagree with many of the things. But I will defend, as Voltaire said, or at least is supposed to have said, I will defend to death your right to disagree with me. And I don't think the courts can regulate that free speech unless it touches on security, tort, crime, defamation, blah, blah.
One final question, or what has stood out in the farmer protest, is the strategy that they have involved, whether it is, unity, getting people together, finances, communication, and most importantly, staying apolitical, Mr. Singhvi. Will political parties give them that space through this victory that is frankly theirs and theirs alone? Or do you see that the Congress might like to take credit?
In fact, the only party which has come out rather poorly in this is the ruling party. If you see the entire 18 to 20 months, I would say that most political parties have acquitted themselves rather responsibly. Take an overall view and think of it objectively.
Yeah.
From the day one, they said that we don't want to politicize it. If I go and stand with Mithali, it will be said that Mr. Singhvi is a Congress person, so it's a Congress agitation. If Mr. Yechuri comes and stands with Mithali, it will be said it's a left agitation. So, by and large, the political parties gave moral support, gave vocal support, but did not interfere, point one. Point two, reciprocally, almost all segments of the movement eschewed political affiliations. Yeah. You know very well they said that either all come or no one comes. We are not part of this blue or red or white or black formation. We are, in that sense, equidistant. And even though I may be part of a political party as a farmer, I kept that distance on politics. Third, I think rabid, provocative situations by making a hortatory, rhetorical, political speech is astonishing. For 20 months, there was hardly any such occasion, both because political parties did not attempt it, and those who that attempted were rebuffed by the agitators. So I think it was largely a consensus that the true meaning of a farmer's angst will be diluted or nullified if you allow this. And therefore, it was not done.
Just remiss of me not to have asked you this one final question, Mr. Singhvi, because as you said, a lot of time has passed, and most unfortunately, so has a lot of blood and lives. As we, at this point in time, 700 farmers have lost their lives. Does it naturally progress that all the standing cases against the farmers will also be withdrawn, or will that be a whole other process?
Number one, it is not the deaths which are terrible and grievous and unimaginable, but you are forgetting the unimaginable torture which you go through for 18 to 20 months standing in sun, rain, shine, cold, wind. Education, comfort, sleeping, disease, COVID. Those who survived went through hell. Let's be clear. That's apart. Number two, nothing happens automatically. Nothing. Least of all, withdrawal of cases or the cases don't die down. The first thing they must do, and I'm giving the benefit of doubt to the Honorable Prime Minister, he's made a statement today. I'm not suggesting he should do it immediately. But immediately, the repeal should happen, ordinance should be passed, and cases should be withdrawn en masse. You are withdrawing all kinds of undeserved cases many times. These are the most deserving category because these are purely agitational cases. There are cases which have been deliberately foisted by the police. There are cases which have nothing to do with actual crime. It's a no-brainer. It should happen yesterday.
I appreciate your time today. Thank you for speaking with me, Mr. Singhvi, on what has clearly been a red letter day for the farmers and their protest. Thank you, sir.
To receive instant updates on all videos from The Wire, click the subscribe button and hit the bell icon. Pay to support independent journalism. Click the link in the description and choose the amount you want to pay.